5, 10, 9, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and there we go. Terrific. Fáilte isteach go dtí an leabharlann seo má chairde go léir fud na cruinne is mise António Mo. And this is Live Irish Myths episode 218, if I'm not mistaken. Hope you're all keeping well on this fine March evening in the Boyne Valley. Let me just make the quickest... Whoa, no, don't do that. Yes, do that. Quickest adjustment. Yes, we have passed the equinox. We had vernal equinox last week, and the days are getting longer. We have sprung forward in Europe, meaning there's now a 5-hour difference again between us and our friends in New York, and an 8-hour difference again between us and our friends on the West Coast. If you're in Seattle or San Francisco or Portland, Oregon, wherever you are over there, it's midday right now. It's 8 p.m. in Ireland, and guess what? It's not dark. Yes, I love it. Now, there's a thing. I get this anxiety around equinox. Our next festival, if you mark the festival of the year the way we think it was marked in ancient and prehistoric times, our next festival is in fact Bealtaine, the beginning of summer in early May, and after that it's summer solstice, which is the height of the sun. And guess what? After that, the sun starts to sink in the sky again. I can't face it. No, it's been such a long winter. What am I talking about? It's only spring. Relax, Anthony. It'll be October before the days are short again. Relax, take a deep breath. Good evening, everybody, one and all. If you are dropping in, please do feel free to use the chat facility. If you comment on Facebook or on YouTube, your comment will appear here, and I will, by and large, show your comment, so long as it's not dirty. And so long as it's not addressed to somebody else, in which case I'll just let you chat away. What else? Of course, I should have taken notes. I took them in there, but in there, I'm getting older because I had a birthday in the past week. And none of us is getting any younger, of course. But, you know, fuddly-muddly brain isn't doing it for me right now. What was I going to say? I don't know. But I'll think of it before too long. Anyway, scroll up to the top of the many comments. First commenter in the house tonight was, in fact, Rex Fortenberry, who is in Louisiana. Good afternoon to you, Rex. Thank you for joining us here on Live Irish Myths. Irish Technical Thinker Marcus is joining us from Bale Ferrishta, Trenonawa, and Anne Scott Doherty has the popcorn ready to go. I have no idea why, but hopefully this is riveting viewing enough for popcorn and maybe a soda or something stronger. God forbid, if that's your thing. Wayne Bird says, good evening, Anthony. Hope you and everyone are well. Nice alignment of 5 planets tomorrow. Hopefully it's not cloudy. Yeah, I think Jupiter in particular has sunk into the twilight. That would be difficult to see. Is Mercury there as well? Mercury, Jupiter, Moon, Venus. Sorry, Mercury. Get them in order, Anthony. Mercury. Is Mercury even there? I'm doubting myself now. Maybe it's not. Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Moon, Mars. And I think Uranus is in there too. Or to give it its dirt bold name, Uranus. Anyway, moving swiftly on, Michael Pike has joined us. Grand way to begin the week. I couldn't agree more, Michael. I'm glad that somebody else agrees. Helen Hirsch Chatter is in the house. Greetings, friends. Ah, yes, Sláinte Macharja. Ty is in the house, Archaeoastronomy Database. And if you haven't done so already, get over to his YouTube channel and give it a subscribe. That's what I was meant to say. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Give the live stream a like. Helps with the traffic. Helps to build the community. Speaking of the community, huge upsurge in people joining the Mythical Ireland community on Facebook, which is brilliant. It's averaging between 200 and 250 a week at the moment. Current total membership is 24,718. Couple more weeks and we'll hit the 25,000 mark. Brilliant stuff. Mandy McCurl says, Fáilte bh Alien Elian Vulle. So that's Scottish Gaelic, I presume, and Fulch is the same as Irish, which is welcome. Vo, I'm not sure, is that from? Elian looks like it might be the Scottish version of Elian, which is an island of not Mull. Yes, welcome from Mull Island. Am I right, Mandy? Correct me if I'm wrong. And I probably am. Kelly B is saying hello. Good evening from the Boyne Valley to you, Kelly. Bong, we're back, says Michael. Joe Butler is in snowy Colorado. I can't say much because I'll only annoy you, but today was quite a pleasant day. Plenty of sunshine until the evening, and then it got cloudy. We are supposed to get lots of showers and a bit of wind this week, but spring has sprung here, definitely. Daniel Fagan is listening from Armagh. Hello, Daniel. Good evening to you. Hope all is well in Ardwacha. Robin Moonshadow says, hope everyone has been well this week. Snow is almost gone. Yay! Starting to warm up. Brilliant stuff. Glad to hear it, Robin. Summer is coming. Valerie Gallagher is listening while working in the farm greenhouses. That sounds actually quite pleasant. I just don't like the idea of work, to be honest. Everything else sounds quite pleasant. Gia Gitch, lol. Gia Ditch. Yes. Getting the pronunciation right with the Lanician. Oh, yes. Adrian, what fun. Adrian O'Beglin is in the house. Hello, Adrian. Sláinte, Machara. Amy Bachman says, Gia Gutch. Gia August Ban Gia Gutch. Amy, glad to see you this evening. Lucas is saying good evening, everybody. Hello, Lucas. And Lucas is in Italy. Ciao, Lucas. And I hope it is a good one. Buona serata. Kaylee During is in the house. Good evening to you, Kaylee. Kaylee has one of the fastest growing YouTube channels on the internet. History with Kaylee proving very, very popular around the world. I can't remember what it was last time you passed a milestone. Was it 110,000? Was it 120? Let's find out, shall we? History with Kaylee. First recommendation. 127,000 subscribers. Wow. Send a few of them this way, Kaylee, will you? Please. Thank you for joining us. So good to see you. Bernard Brian Mulholland says hello, everyone. Hi, Bernard Brian. You're very welcome. I think you've been posting stuff on the Mythical Ireland community, which is very interesting. If I'm not mistaken, and if I am, again, just mushy brain. Is it Veli Chavez is in Mexico? Good afternoon to you. What an honor to have somebody watching from Mexico. Hope you're having a great day. Mickey Ansbury is saying hello from the cloudy shores of Lake Erie. Hope it's not too eerie, Mickey. And thank you for joining us. Belated happy birthday, says Mandy. Well, you're very many happy returns, as they say, even though it may not be your birthday. I had a great birthday, by the way. Really, really memorable birthday. For reasons that I actually can't really say because I'm sworn to secrecy. I met somebody very famous, and that somebody very famous presented me with a birthday cake and sang happy birthday. And in time, there are videos of this. In time, they will be released. But for the moment, I am sworn to secrecy. Lewin, Dannon, only the patrons at the Bronze Age level and above know what's going on. Remember, support Mythical Ireland, become a patron, and get access to really interesting stuff like that. Maybe it's not interesting to you. And if that's the case, I won't be offended. Lewin Dannon says hello from Australia at 6 a.m. here with shrinking daylight hours and autumn settling in. A very good morning to you, Lewin. A happy Tuesday to you from Monday here in the Boyne Valley. So good to see our Australian friends joining us. Anya Ryan is saying belated birthday wishes. Auntie, good evening to everybody. Anya, you're very welcome to the live stream. Good to see you as always. Bev Davis is in Texas, where it's gorgeous. Wouldn't expect it to be any less. We get reports every week from Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter with temperatures and everything, and it always makes us jealous. The Lone Star State, indeed, Marcus. Yes. Happy birthday, Anthony. Dad jokes have even been scientifically proven to be healthy for children, says the British Journal. Well, there is a slight side effect, which is my kids all have a rash on their forehead, a red swelling from when they keep going like that every time I tell a dad joke. Anna Ella's in the house. Watched Anthony on the History Channel yesterday in Polish telly, recognized the voice, and ran from the kitchen to the living room to see this. I wonder, was that the Stonehenge? Is it Stonehenge Decoded, that program is called? And they did a feature at the beginning of that about the discovery of Dronehenge. Yes, I'm just going to tee up a few jokes for you in a moment. Desiree Riley has been busy, but herself and Amadeus seem to be tuning in, which is brilliant. Hope you had a lovely birthday. I had an absolutely superb birthday, Desiree. I really, really did. Fabulous. I have begun, just between us, this is a secret. Please don't record, write it down anywhere, and it is strictly between you and me, not for public consumption. I have entered my 50th orbit of the sun. I know. I don't look a day over 48. Hello from Tucson, says Ali. I've been reading a lot into the monoliths around the world and saw your work mentioned. So happy to be here, as always. Well, we, as always, are very happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Joe O'Keefe is in the house. Hello, Joe. Sláinte Machara. Hope you are keeping well and in fine fettle. Lexi Erickson is in the house. Lexi, what a pleasure. And I hope you are having a great Monday. It was the one about the Ark, Anthony. Oh, yes. Discovery Science did a program about the search for the Ark of the Covenant. And they did, one of their programs in that series was about Ireland. And the guy poured cold water on the whole idea. But anyway, there you go. Yeah, I was trying to fit a lemon pun into my jokes repertoire, but I just couldn't squeeze it in. There's life after 50. Not much, but there's life. Thanks, Michael. That gives me something to look forward to. Honestly, it does. Yes. I am terrible at remembering jokes. Man and a woman in a restaurant. The woman turns around to the man after the meal is completed and says, "Thanks for tonight. It was wonderful. We should do dinner again." And the man goes, "No thanks, I'm full." I just got a job as a church bell ringer. It's my first week, so they're just showing me the ropes. Yes. No, we'll leave it there. Definitely. We will leave it there. Anybody else? Oh, may God, says. Yeah. Just made my 3-year anniversary at Mythical Ireland. So happy I found you in this lovely group during COVID. Well, we are glad that you found us, Desiree, because it works both ways. And yeah, we talked recently, didn't we, about in 2 live streams ago about how we'd started all this 3 years previously. My head is getting that rash. Must be going around, says Robin. Can't blame you in that respect. Yeah, so as well as meeting somebody rather famous and fabulously interesting on my birthday and being given a birthday cake and all the rest, a video to follow when I can. I have another gig coming up, which I can't say too much about very soon, which I'm rather excited about. So there's lots going on, as the man says. As some of you may have seen, I do regularly take the opportunity at the beginning of our live streams to display, show off my new arrivals to the Mythical Ireland Library, which is in a constant state of expansion, such that a number of months ago, I completely and utterly ran out of shelf space, as a result of which there are now piles of books on the floor, for which I apologize. Not to you guys, to my long-suffering wife. Oh, she has suffered so much from just having to associate with me. It's terrible for her. It's a hell of a chore. Igawa os onricht, and that is from Obera 144. Good evening to you, and thank you for joining us on the live stream. It is our pleasure to give you a nice, warm welcome. Amadeus heard a puppy. Well, that's Saskia. She's outside, and I believe she may be looking to get in, which I may have to allow that to happen shortly. Rowan Grove is joining us from snowy Colorado. Another Coloradoan who is currently seeing a lot of the white stuff lying around the place. Thankfully, we only had the smallest flutter a few weeks ago, and that's all we had for the whole winter, thankfully. So some of you will know this already, because if you follow Mythical Ireland on Facebook, on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page, or on the Mythical Ireland community, or indeed on the Instagram, or on the Twitter is not so growing so well. I'm not sure why. I think it's because I'm not funny on Twitter. Apparently you have to be kind of witty on Twitter to get followers. So I'm sorry. And I know I tell lots of dad jokes, but I don't share those on Twitter. And I regularly show off new arrivals to the Mythical Ireland Library. I was very excited last week because I caught a glimpse of a book in a local secondhand bookshop. It's not just a bookshop. It's one of, you American viewers would call it a thrift store, would you? They're selling a lot of secondhand items to raise money for charity. Your lovely wife is a saint, says Desira. I will not disagree. Absolutely. Kerem Gogus is in the house. My good friend, Kerem. How are you keeping? It's so wonderful to hear from you. Kelly B, what's the oldest structure in Ireland made by our ancestors? Yes, my maiden name used to be O'Connell, and my family's from Cork, but I'm curious, what's the oldest structure built by our ancestor? The oldest megalithic structure in Ireland is that has been dated by archaeologists is Pool na Brón Dolmen in on the Burren in County Clare, which I think dates to around 3700 BC. Looks like the library of an antiquarian. Yes, a bit of an antique myself these days. But anyway, I saw this book in the window. I went straight in, very excited. I was meeting somebody for lunch last Monday, this day last week. And the reason I didn't mention this in the live stream last week will be obvious now. And he was on the phone out beside where we were supposed to meet, outside the second-hand shop. And he's on the phone, and I'm like, how are you doing? And he says, he's finishing up his phone call. And I said, it's okay. And I had a look at the books in the window, and I just saw one, and I said, I have to get that. That's got Mythical Ireland written all over it. I went into the shop. I said to the assistant, I'm looking for one of the books that's in the window. She says, oh, yes, you'll have to come back on Saturday. I said, why? Politely, of course. She said, we have a Saturday window sale. So everything that's in the window is special, and we sell them on Saturday. And I said, okay, when on Saturday? She says, when we open. We open at 10 a.m. Be here at 10 a.m. I was there at 9:45 a.m. Saturday morning. First one outside the shop. Oh, you can only imagine my excitement, my anticipation, my nervousness at the possibility that somebody had actually bought it in the meantime. I went in as soon as the door opened. I went straight in. I went straight over to the pile of books, and I picked it up, and I went, yes. Folks, I present to you, Linda Nolan is in Arizona, in Phoenix. Good afternoon to you. Saskia needs to be let in. I know, Desiree, I will let her in a moment. She's very impatient, but she's right to be impatient. Da, da, da. First edition, hardback copy with dust jacket. Martin Brennan's The Stars and the Stones. Now, I already kind of have this, and I've had it for a long time. The Stones of Time, it was reprinted as. It was originally published by Thames and Hudson in 1983 in hardback, later published in paperback by Inner Traditions. And that's the book that most people will have. Some of you, I know, have this because people were commenting on the post. Can you believe that I shared pictures of this on Instagram? In particular, I'm not sure why the Facebook didn't do so well. On Instagram, and I really will have to let Saskia in momentarily. On Instagram, the post that I shared saying I got this book has 1,205 likes. People are happy, I think. Tinged with jealousy, of course, and I can understand that. I have previously seen friends of mine picking up copies of this and being jealous. There it is without the dust jacket. And it's got the beautiful Wimbledon cover with the Thames and Hudson logo. And in gold, the stars and the stones along the spine. A beautiful production. It is a pristine copy. There's not a dog ear. There's no staining. There's no tearing. There's no pencil marks. Nobody had even written a name on it. Now, I always put my name and the date upon which I've acquired a book in pencil. So that has been done. This is a very, very valuable book because Brennan, I suppose, I'm just making sure I'm right about this. Brennan was the first. Brennan was a pioneer in that he looked at the megalithic art on Irish Neolithic monuments and he tried to interpret it. And that's a very, very risky game to play, folks, because so much of it seems to be so abstract and so arcane and so non-representational. But when you look at it, as I've said often, you see what look like suns and moons and stars. And it all, a lot of it looks like it might relate to the heavens, which got me very excited. When I started my journey into all this stuff in 1999, Brennan's book represents a brave and worthy attempt to interpret those carvings. Nobody is able to say, because of the passing of time, and we can never be sure, nobody's able to say, yes, this is a correct interpretation, or this is not. When you present a theory about Irish megalithic art, you have to accept that you have no Rosetta Stone, as it were, no writing that survives from the Neolithic that explains the meaning of the art. And because it's so abstract, apparently abstract and arcane, experts who study it say, that it is, maybe I'm paraphrasing a little bit, impenetrable to interpretation. I think that I disagree with that to an extent, in that I think you could put forward a very strong case. There is a strong case to be made, in particular, for Curbstone 52 at Knowth. Brennan used a different numbering convention for the stones. He called this Curbstone SW22 Southwestern 22. He divided Knowth into 4 segments, northeast, northwest, southwest, southeast, and numbered the stones in each segment. And he said it contains calendrical engravings relating to the number of moons in a year, and how that correlates or doesn't correlate, how it doesn't harmonize with the solar year, leading him and many others, myself included, to think that this stone pertains to the metonic cycle of the moon, which is a 19-year cycle that brings the full moon, back in harmony with the solar year. In short, to give you a really brief description of that, if, for instance, you saw, let's pick a very important date. Let's say you saw a full moon on winter solstice. On the day of winter solstice, the sun rises and shines into Newgrange, and then the sun sets and the full moon rises. When is the next time you will see a full moon on winter solstice? Of course, you watch 12 full moons passing and you'll notice that 12 full moons is short of a year by 11 days. So the full moon in December occurs 11 days before solstice on the following year. And 12 more moons is 22 days short, so you have to add a 13th, and it's a few days over. And next year you add another 12, and it's a few days under, and it keeps going like that. But at 19 years, everything resynchronizes. So the answer is, if you see a full moon on the winter solstice, which there was in 2010, the next full moon on the winter solstice will be in 2029. There you go. Now, the reason this is relevant, and I will get going with the reading shortly, is that I am currently in the throes of compiling a number of comprehensive articles to be accompanied by videos for the Mythical Ireland website, explaining some of this Neolithic astronomy as much as far as is possible in layman's terms, so that people can maybe understand that the apparently complex movements of the moon aren't actually as complex as we think, because we've never been taught that visual astronomy. Yes, astronomy books will tell you that the synodic lunar month is 29.5 days. Yes, they will tell you that the sidereal lunar month, which is the time it takes the moon, say you see the moon under the Pleiades tonight, it'll be 27.3 days before that moon returns to the Pleiades again. That's the sidereal month. But the sidereal and synodic are different. They're 2.2 days apart. And trying to correlate all that with the solar year apparently wrecks the head. But in prehistoric times, the moon had natural, and continues to have, natural rhythms that can be seen and observed and recorded. And once you know its patterns, you can predict them into the future. So I'm predicting now that there will be a full moon on the winter solstice in the year 2029, because there was one on the winter solstice in the year 2010. I have completed the first of those articles, which is 5,000 words long. It's a long page for the website, and a number of YouTube videos using the Stellarium software, which is used by many researchers, including our good friend Ty of Archaeoastronomy Database, very successfully, to demonstrate some of this stuff. That article will be appearing hopefully in the next week on the website. If you want to see it before then, it is already available to patrons of Mythical Ireland at the Bronze Age level and above. And again, that's the address that's scrolling along the bottom. If you want to support Mythical Ireland by making a small contribution a month to help us promote all of this stuff, you can, but you also get rewards in the form of access to early and sometimes absolutely exclusive access to articles and blog posts, videos, podcasts, pictures, and more news. I want to quickly catch up because a few people have joined us since I last said hello. Linda Nolan, we did say hello to. Yes, and Saskia is coming in. Thanks to Finn. Fergal Canton has joined us. I had a watch that only had a minute hand and an hour hand. I'm looking for a second. I like it. I like it. I might borrow that one, Fergal. Caitlin Moon is in Dublin. Good evening, Falcha, Caitlin. Balya Clear. Such lovely illustration. Well, Brennan was an artist, and so all of the drawings in the book are his, and a very comprehensive study of megalithic art, especially in relation to astronomy. And as I say, a huge inspiration to me, such that actually Brennan left Ireland in around 1985, and he left Ireland under a cloud. Part of the reason for that, I've explored it in my Newgrange Monument to Immortality. I explored this subject, but Brennan wasn't very popular with the archaeologists. And part of the reason for that was because he was making discoveries, and I don't think they liked it. Part of the reason was that, they, shall we just say, from the get-go, they weren't on the same terms. They weren't, I suppose, they probably wondered, who's this brash young American who's coming in here making all these claims. But nevertheless, his work is very interesting. It's not all right. And he and I had the opportunity to discuss that because Brennan only returned to Ireland once since 1985, and that was in 2009. And 2009, at my invitation, I invited him back to be the keynote speaker at a conference called the Boyne Valley Revision, because his first book was called The Boyne Valley Vision. I think it was published in 1980. And we had an opportunity to chat, and it was a great event and a great time, and it was great to spend time at the monuments with Martin, who had been such a major inspiration. Shouldn't forget, by the way, his fellow team members, especially Jack Roberts, who in recent years has become a friend of mine. A shout out to the late Hank Harrison, who I met in the year 2000 in the Boyne Valley, who's now deceased. Toby Hall, who I've met on a number of occasions. And a follower of the Mythical Ireland community, Siobhan Heffernan, who actually gets a mention in the acknowledgements of the Stars and the Stones, among many others who helped Brennan to make his observations in those heady days when they were making breakthroughs and discoveries, including the Cairn T equinox alignment at Lough Crew and the alignment of south towards winter solstice sunset. Britt Griffin is back. Have to keep running out and chasing off a little raccoon from my bird feeders. Looking forward to the reading. Well, Britt, that sounds like it'll keep you busy. At least you'll get a bit of exercise while listening and watching. Rare to find early editions with such a good dust jacket. That's why I value it so much. It's folks, I wouldn't even tell you what I paid for it, because you just, again, did you get that book from a star seller? You could say that. Star in many ways. Tara Sky Dressler is in the house. That looks like a great book for sure. It is. Catherine Hupp is saying hello from Colorado. We have all 4 seasons in one day. We've had several Coloradoans tell us it's still snowing there, or there's still snow on the ground. But I do know that parts of Colorado are very mountainous. Joseph O'Heirda, Trinonawa, bonsoir, mon ami. Johnny Wilson is in Dallas, Texas. I believe it's fabulous there, Johnny, in terms of the weather. Probably the only people watching who can claim to have really nice weather right now are the Texans. Mavanway Millward, did I miss a book there? Yes, you did. The Stars and the Stones. Pristine copy, 1983. Brilliant stuff. Conleth Berry Is there any difference between the hardback and the paperback? No, it's exactly the same book. The only thing about the hardback is that some of the illustrations have this red color on them. It's a two-tone. What did they call that back then? Was that spot color before? It was as a cheaper alternative to four-color processing. Other than that, it's exactly the same book. Obviously, it doesn't have the hardback cover or the dust jacket, but they are one and the same book inside, with no changes that I'm aware of. Josie Weatherford is in Dundrum in South Dublin. Hello, Josie. So nice of you to join us. Great to see you. Spike Willow is in the house as well. I did not see you earlier, so hello to you. I came back from Cardiff yesterday with 22 books. I need to rein it in a bit. I see all these memes on social media where somebody's in a bookshop with their partner, and I'm in the bookshop with my wife, and she's saying, Anthony, and I've an armful of books, and I'm going up to the counter with an armful of books, and she's like, you have 900 books at home, Anthony. Do you really need these? And I just look at her and go, yeah, I really need them. And she said, but you probably haven't read half the ones you have at home. And I'm like, yeah, but I will read them at some point, which is exactly the intention. Kathy May Deo's in the house. I'm feeling much better. Well, that's brilliant. Glad to hear that, Kathy. I know you were a bit under the weather last week. Well, we wish you all the best for a full recovery. Avron Gaunt says, hello all, good evening to you. Tom King is a tad late. Yes, indeed, a wizard is never late, though. And nor is a smith. I hope all in good fettle. Lovely stretch in the evening. Clock adjustment, most welcome. You're right there, Tom. Absolutely no doubt about it. Watch that Mythical Ireland conference on YouTube recently. Excellent. Brennan was promising another publication then. I live in hope. I don't know Brennan's status. Unfortunately, Martin is a bit of a Luddite, and he freely admits that. He has never owned a cell phone, and he has never owned a computer. He handwrites everything, and he lives in Mexico, and he's not the most contactable person in the world. I was lucky to have a Skype call with him on winter solstice about 6 or 7 years ago, but that's only because somebody he was with in Mexico had a computer and access to broadband and put the laptop in front of him and turned on Skype. This is before Zoom. Remember Skype, folks? Joe O'Keefe, I guess the ancient Irish knew the times of dusk and dawn meant something to design the stone structures the way they did for the sunlight to enter the tombs at certain times. Oh, I think they were rather clever. Maryland, Mike Langley is in Maryland. Hello, Mike. Good afternoon. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. Elaine Dent Lingenfeld, there she is. Give us the temperatures, Elaine. We have several Texans boasting about, well, some of them weren't boasting in fairness. But let's be honest, if you live in Texas and everyone else is freezing, then you can afford to boast. What's the temperature today? Conleth Berry says, I should have also said hello from Boston. Well, hello to all the Bostonians in the house. And I think I'm fully caught up with comments. So, as I say, lots of... The thing is, the key thing for me is finding the time to do everything. I am writing a book at the moment as well, but the article, the first in this planned series of articles, I'm very happy with, because it's something it's been annoying me. It's been on my mind for years that the website, the Mythical Ireland website, does not say enough about the Metonic cycle. And in particular, well, pare it down for us to the basics. Show us how it would have been observable in prehistoric times before we knew, for instance, that the solar year was 365.24 days. Show us how somebody could have seen this without needing to know that the synodic lunar month is 29.51 something days, and the sidereal lunar month is 27.3 something days. Show us how we could do it without that, and it can be done, actually. And the fascinating thing is, with the Metonic cycle, there is a rather fascinating, interesting, fabulously exquisite pattern about it. That means once you watch it for a few years, you can predict it out into the future. You don't even need to watch an entire cycle to see that it happens. Dahi is it Guvleich is saying hello from Sleepy Hollow. Very interesting place. Sounds like it's straight out of a Tim Burton movie. Obira has to sign out. I'll watch back Parental Duties Club. Hey, that's important. More important than Live Irish Myths. Being a parent. Yes. Probably the only thing that's more important, actually. But fair enough. 20 Celsius today. Oh, I mean, that's a good June temperature for us. We're totally jealous. We absolutely are. Anyway, tonight we are returning to the wonderful work of Charles Squire, published originally in 1912. I'm doubting myself now. Yes, as Celtic Myth and Legend, Poetry and Romance, republished. This is a Senate edition. I've said all this before, so I'm just repeating myself now. From 1998, actually Tiger Books International, but it's a Senate reprint, and it is a facsimile reprint. I'm glad to say, not an OCR or a retypeset version. I always love the facsimile versions. Chapter 5 tonight is called The Gods of the Gales. So you'll know from the first 2 episodes in this series that when Squire refers to the Britons or the British Islands, he is referring overall to ancient mythology from Ireland, Wales, England, Scotland, Isle of Man, etc. He's putting them all into the one bag, basically. Because in 1912, despite the protestations of many Irish people, Ireland was part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, active union and all of that. Let's not go there, shall we? Yeah, Desiree makes a good point. Tides and animal migrations in the oceans are so tied to the lunar cycle, so it would make perfect sense that people on an island who depend on these things would know these movements and track them. Furthermore, you have a culture that is building giant monuments and bringing the stones from long distances away, and the majority of Irish archaeologists are agreed on one thing, and that is that those stones were brought by boat, by sea and river. And the Boyne is tidal. Well, it was tidal all the way to Brunabonia in the Neolithic, but because of the salmon weirs, it's not tidal all the way up to Brunabonia now. You really need to have kept an eye on the moon to know when to bring the stones up the river. A nice 70 Fahrenheit in Dallas, Texas, says Johnny. Sounds nice. Adina Sparks is in the house, coming in late. Farrier for the horses was an hour late. A farrier, no less. Brilliant stuff. What are the horses, I wonder? Lipitzaner. In what movie was there an argument between 2 people of high rank? I'm not going to give too much away. I just want to see who gets it first. There was an argument among 2 people of very high rank, 2 men, in a very famous, very well-known Hollywood movie from, I think, the 1990s, about Lipizzaner stallions and what color they were when they were born and how they changed when they grew up. Something about them being black but born white, or being white but being born black, or something like that. I visited a Welsh tidal island on Saturday. A real little adventure, says Mavanu. Wow. And did you go out on a boat, I wonder? The moon is strong enough to move the oceans. It also affects us as we are also fluid. I always feel the effects of a new moon and a full one. Anyone else? Yep. At some point, we have lots and lots of subjects still to cover. We're 218 episodes in. Helen says white as adults, but are they black when they're foals? Because that's what the argument was about in the movie. I'm still waiting for somebody to give me the name of the movie. Horse Whisperer is good, but it's not right. Actually, it's not close either, but look, it's a good guess. Sorry, rewind something I was going to say before moving on. Yes, about the moon. I'm going to, at some point, read the work of Mircea Eliade, who had some fascinating things to say about the moon. Oh, man. His book, The Myth of the Eternal Return, is very well known. But actually, I think even better than that is his book called Patterns in Comparative Religion. And he deals comprehensively with the moon in that. And we are going to have to read that. Now, it may take several episodes. You will be blown away, as I was, I'm sure. Hunt for Red October is extremely close, but not right. Extremely close in terms of the subject matter. Extremely close. It's a very, very good guess. No boat, waiting for the tide to go out. There was a slight sense of panic among the group that we'd be trapped, so we hastily made our way back after exploring. A good idea. There are places, if you know the area, fine, but there are places where the tide encroaches very, very quickly. And I think the Gods of the Gales is going to make 2 episodes. And just a reminder that this is the material that we read in the very first episode of Live Irish Myths on the 12th of March 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. So we're returning to familiar territory here. We've already read several chapters that we hadn't read back then, but I think this one is a repeat. Oh, still no correct guesses. I'm surprised. Maybe I'm the only one who likes this movie. Okay, I'm going to give you the biggest clue of all. If I don't see the correct answer coming up in the next 5 seconds. Discussion between commanding officer and his XO, USS Dallas. I'm not sure what the name of the craft was. The question, Mavanwe, is in what movie were 2 very high-ranking men arguing about the colour of Lipizzaner stallions? Very well-known Hollywood movie from the 1990s. Full of tension and high drama. It was brilliant. No, nobody's getting it. Okay, the biggest clue of all. We have to get reading. It's 41 minutes into the hour, and I haven't started reading yet. But I know you're all patient. You all want to wait around all day. And it's definitely not The Hunt for Red October. I'll give you the biggest clue ever. No, plenty of people guessing The Hunt for Red of October. No, Gene Hackman was the star. Him and Denzel Washington. That'll give it away straight away, I'm sure. Dr. Mordecai Cassius Marcellus Jones. What a lovely name. I love fairy tales. Well, join us now. Hey, Fergal Canton has it. Yay. Woo, at long last we are there. Crimson Tide. Pulp Fiction. Dora is the wrong answer. And I would say a good guess, but it's not even close. But look, was Gene Hackman in Pulp Fiction? But you may have guessed that, in fairness, before I said that. Fergal Canton is the one and only person to get the question right. Yes, a very dramatic. I love it anyway. There is a rendition of the hymn Meletus. Isn't it called Meletus? Is it? Oh, go fast, strong to save. Da 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 da. That one. For those in peril on the sea. There's a Welsh male voice choir that sings that hymn on the soundtrack. Oh, it will melt your heart, folks. Even if you don't like male voice choirs, have a look on YouTube. Not now, because you're watching this and paying attention. When you get a chance, Google it. I think it's here, YouTube it. Let me just make sure it's there first. Is it Meletus? Is that the name of that hymn, Meletus, from Crimson Tide? Or is it Meletus? Maybe I'm getting the name wrong. For those in peril. It's also that hymn, by the way, you will have heard in the movie Titanic as well. Eternal Father, the naval hymn in Crimson Tide. Yeah, I'm not going to play that because if I do, I'll probably get a copyright strike or a warning from the L Tube, I was expecting your dog to join in and sing along with you, says Peter Kennedy. Good evening, Peter. He's only down the road from us in Balbriggan in the county of Dublin. We're getting serenaded tonight. Wow, what a treat. And dad jokes, Oh, man. I'm going to paste the link in. But come here, listen, don't go watching it now because you're paying attention to the story, right? Eternal Father, the naval hymn. as it is sung by a Welsh male voice choir on the soundtrack of Crimson Tide, if it doesn't set the hairs tingling on the back of your neck and give you goosebumps, nothing will. It is just incredible. That is the naval hymn from the U.S. Naval Academy, says Michael Pike. Yeah, but I think in the hymn books of this part of the world, uh, is it Miletus or Melita? Somebody help me out. Somebody give me the name of it in Britain. What would that hymn be called? Is what I want to know. I thought it was Miletus or Melita. Miletus, Melitus. I could be getting it wrong. Anyway, let us proceed. Oh my God, it's 9:15. What am I doing? This is chapter 5 of Charles Squire's. Well, it's rebranded as the mythology of the Celtic people, but the original, as I've said before, was called Celtic Myth and Legend, Poetry and Romance. Dr. Mordecci wants to know if I can tap dance also. Actually, no, I have 2 left feet. I couldn't kick snow off a rope. Yes, indeed, Crimson Tide. When I'm finished this, I'm just going to play that on repeat for the rest of the evening. Actually, I must add that to my my playlist. My playlist is eclectic. I have a Spotify playlist. I play it while I'm driving, and sometimes when I'm sitting here. It's got everything on it, from Dire Straits and U2 and Queen to David Bowie and Billy Joel to Enya to Bruckner to movie soundtracks to Mozart to yeah. It's just like whatever comes up next comes up next. So you could have Nirvana playing to be followed by a Bruckner symphony next. Fascinating. Dr. Mordecai says that's not my no shit, Sherlock. Sorry for the French. Apologies. I kind of guessed that. My kind of playlist, says Labyrinth Queen. My kind of YouTube handle, Labyrinth Queen. Sounds like you're going to get lost somewhere looking for a minotaur or something. Hans Zimmer, Roll Tide. Yes. No, but yeah. Melita. Jacqueline. There's a hello, Jacqueline says it's called Melita. I was second guessing myself. I think it is known as Melita. If you were to go to a church service in Britain and you were to take out the hymn books, I know this because we play hymns in the brass band, and we've played this hymn, Melita. Yes, Daniel Fagan is repeating. Yeah, it is. But that Welsh male voice choir version is simply heavenly. And if you've seen the movie, of course, you'll know the part where that. I'm not going to spoil it for you, because if you've never seen it, or if it's years since you've seen it, it's worth watching again. You'll understand. But it's an emotional hymn, I think, because it is a hymn that's sung for all those who are either in danger on the seas or who have been lost at sea. A very, very well-known hymn among naval crew and, of course, merchant crew and all sorts of sailors and fishermen and anybody who's been on the Father, I was going to say, because I was looking at Michael Pike's comment, anybody who's on the sea, been on the sea. Anyway, I really must get going. Apologies. At long last, here we go. Chapter 5, Charles Squire. I'm doing it. Of the 2 Celtic races that settled in our islands, it is the earlier, the Gaels, that has best preserved its old mythology. It is true that we have, in few cases, such detailed account of the Gaelic gods as we gain of the Hellenic deities from the Greek poets, of the Indian devas from the Rig Veda, or from the Norse Aesir from the Eddas. Yet, nonetheless, may we draw from the ancient Irish manuscripts quite enough information to enable us to set forth their figures with some clearness. We find them, as might have been anticipated, very much like the divine hierarchies of other Aryan peoples. Now, Aryan, as we said last week, is a word that has gone out of use in modern scholarship. Here, not describing a race of white-skinned people, as it may have been used in the 20th century by certain nasty people, but actually referring to the Indo-European language, people who spoke Indo-European languages. Anthony, you and Tom need to do a duet for us. A comedy duet or a singing duet? I know, singing. I know, yes. I'd love to do actually Raglan Road. I have to learn the lyrics. I don't know them all, but I know Tom does a mean Raglan Road. I'd love to accompany him. Actually, I can play a little bit of tin whistle, and I have a couple of low whistles, so maybe that's something we could organise. Referred to the hymn of His Majesty's Armed Forces. Didn't know that. We find them separated into two opposing camps, a division common to all Aryan religions. Just as the Olympians struggled with the giants, the Aesir fought the Jotuns, and the Devas the Asuras, so there is warfare in the Gaelic spiritual world between two superhuman hosts. Both comedy and singing would be great. Maybe you all could do some Monty Python, and then sing a song, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. On one side are ranged the gods of day, light, life, fertility, wisdom, and good. On the other, the demons of night, darkness, death, barrenness, and evil. The first were the great spirits symbolizing the beneficial aspects of nature and the arts and intelligence of man. The second were the hostile powers thought to be behind such baneful manifestations as storm and fog, drought and disease. The first are ranged as a divine family round a goddess called Danu, from whom they took their well-known name of Tua de Danann, tribe or folk of the goddess Danu. The second owned allegiance, owned, not owed. I read it right. Let me try it again. I'll start over. The second owned allegiance to a female divinity called Daunu, D-O-M-N-U. Their king Indech is described as her son, and they're called Daunu's gods. So the Tua de Danann and the Tua de Daunu. Interesting play on sounds. Helena Breen. Hello there, Helena. Good afternoon. Welcome to the live stream. Written in 1860, says Michael Pike, by William Whiting. Both the Royal Navy and US Navy use it for special events and memorials. Eternal Father, strong to save. That's how it's known. Yes, that's its other name, isn't it, other than Melita on this side of the Atlantic. The word Daunu appears to have signified the abyss or the deep sea. Speaking of crimson tide and those in peril on the sea. And the same idea is also expressed in their better known name of Fomors or Fovora or Fomorians, derived from two Gaelic words meaning under sea, Fo-wor. The waste of water seems to have always impressed the Celts with the sense of primeval ancientness. It was connected in their minds with vastness, darkness, and monstrous births, the very antithesis of all that was symbolized by the earth, the sky, and the sun, which in itself is fascinating because that plays right into Jungian psychology, in which the unconscious, the personal, and the collective is represented by water. He describes it in Jung, that is, in the archetypes and the collective unconscious. He describes water as the commonest symbol of the unconscious. I'm going to take a drink of water because I'm talking too much. Carlos is saying, hi there. Good evening, Carlos. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. Therefore, the Fomors were held to be more ancient than the gods, before whom they were, however, destined to fall in the end. Talk about a spoiler. We've only started talking about them, and he's already spoiled the end of the story. There's no end of the story when it comes to the Tua de Danann, but we know that. Offspring of, quote, chaos and old night, unquote, they were, for the most part, huge and deformed. Some had but one arm and one leg apiece, while others had the heads of goats, horses, or bulls. The most famous and perhaps the most terrible of them all was Balor, whose father is said to have been one Boranech, that is, the cow-faced. Actually, let's take a note here. And who combined in himself the two classical roles of the Cyclops and the Medusa. Though he had two eyes, one was always kept shut, for it was so venomous that it slew anyone on whom its look fell. I'm not sure. Pardon me. I'm not sure that Balor had two eyes. For some reason, I'm doubting that he only had the one. Anyway, we shall proceed. This malignant quality of Balor's eye was not natural to him, but was the result of an accident. Urged by curiosity, he once looked in at the window of a house where his father's sorcerers were preparing a magic potion, and the poisonous smoke from the cauldron reached his eye, infecting it with so much of its own deadly nature as to make it disastrous to others. Pardon me, I'm making margin notes. Neither god nor giant seems to have been exempt from its dangers, so that Balor was only allowed to live on condition that he kept his terrible eye shut. On days of battle, he was placed opposite to the enemy. The lid of the destroying eye was lifted up with a hook, and its gaze withered all who stood before it. The memory of Balor and his eye still lingers in Ireland. The quote, Eye of Balor, unquote, is the name for what the peasantry of other countries call the evil eye. Stories are still told of Balor Bayman, or Balor of the mighty blows, and Balor's castle is the name of a curious cliff on Tory Island. Dún Valor, I've been there, a most incredible place. This island, and it's not a castle or a fort, it's a promontory. It's a piece of land with some stacks on it and some steep cliffs. But there was a promontory fort there at some point in the past. This island off the coast of Donegal was the Fomorian outpost upon earth, their real abode being in the cold depths of the sea. And if you're thinking of Sauron in Lord of the Rings, it's probably a good comparison, because Balor's eye, depending on how much that great eyelid was opened, would cause the landscape to wither and burn. Wasn't he a kind of Cyclops? Yes. I read that he is an Irish answer to Odin in Norse mythology, and he only had the one. Yeah, I don't know where Squire is getting that, and it prompts me to perhaps do some more research, because I thought he was a Cyclops, one-eyed only. Oh my God, I just checked Patreon, says Anya Ryan. Incredible news, big news for you. Best of luck with it. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Anya. Jotens, somebody wanted the spelling. Yes, I may be wrong in my pronunciation. It was spelt, where was that? Yes. The Aesir fought the J-O-T-U-N-S, and the O has the umlaut, is how I know it in German, the two dots over it. But is that Jotuns? Somebody help me with my pronunciation. The Aesir, A-E-S-I-R, and the A-E are joined, which is called diphthong, is it? Is that the diphthong where two letters are kind of joined? Somebody help me with, is it Jotuns or Jotuns, or is it Jotuns, or how is it pronounced? Please help me with that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, by the way. This rule, however, as to the hideousness of the Fomors, had its exceptions. Elathan, one of their chiefs, is described in an old manuscript as of magnificent presence, a Miltonic prince of darkness. Quote, a man of fairest form, unquote, it says, quote, with golden hair down to his shoulders. He wore a mantle of gold braid over a shirt interwoven with threads of gold. 5 golden necklaces were round his neck, and a brooch of gold with a shining precious stone thereon was on his breast. He carried 2 silver spears with rivets of bronze, and his sword was golden hilted and golden studded even, unquote. And that, I believe, is from Cop Moitura. and we have read or studied that before. Yes, indeed, Second Battle of Moytura. Nor was his son less handsome. His name was Bress, which means beautiful. And we are told that every beautiful thing in Ireland, quote, whether plain or fortress or ale or torch or woman or man, unquote, was compared with him, so that men said of them, that is a Bress. In these day and age, the ladies might say he's a looker, you know. Didn't Bridget have an eye incident too? She certainly did on more than one occasion, according to the folklore about her. She plucked her own eye out of her head when she was being proposed for marriage by her father to some chieftain. She didn't like him, so she plucked her eye out of her head and later cured herself at a holy well. Balor, Bress, and Elathan are the three Fomorian personages whose figures, seen through the mists of antiquity, show clearest to us. But they are only a few out of many, nor are they the oldest. We can learn, however, nothing but a few names of any ancestors of the Gaelic giants. This is equally true of the Gaelic gods. Now, I am leaving Eternal Father Strong to Save on my one of my open tabs for when I'm finished, and I'm going to listen to it. Highly recommend it. Maybe you won't like it, but I certainly do. Those we know are evidently not without parentage, but the names of their fathers are no more than shadows following into oblivion the figures they designated. The most ancient divinity of whom we have any knowledge is Danu herself, the goddess from whom the whole hierarchy of gods received its name of Tuatha De Danann, and we know precious little about Danu. She was called Anu or Anna, and her name still clings to two well-known mountains near Killarney, which, though now called simply the Paps, were known formerly as the Paps of Anna. And if the ladies forgive me for my vulgarity, that's another way of saying Anna's boobs are visible in the landscape as two hills. Fascinating thing about the Paps of Anu is that they are crowned by two cairns of I think they're of unknown date. I'm not sure, they might be Neolithic, resembling nipples. She was the universal mother, quote, well, she used to cherish the gods, unquote, says the commentator of a 9th century glossary. And of course, that is Sanas Cormac's glossary. Her husband is never mentioned by name, but one may assume him from British analogies to have been Bile, B-I-L-E fada, known to Gaelic tradition as a god of Hades, a kind of Celtic dispater from whom sprang the first men. Now, I know, and I'm going to say it here now, that there is an argument about this in modern scholarship. This Billa or Bile doesn't appear to have much presence in Irish tradition. Danu herself probably represented the earth and its fruitfulness, and one might compare her with the Greek Demeter. All the other gods are, at least by title, her children. Shall we deviate for a moment? Because look, we started late, and I know that people don't be in a rush to get away. Can we deviate for a moment and have a look for the Danu in Sanas Cormac, actually? I wonder, is it under Anu or is it under Danu? Let me just quickly find out and read. There are, I think, 1,400 entries in Sanas Cormac, but they're all short and sweet, so it will not take long to read if I can find it. The thing is, although they're in alphabetical order from A to not quite Z, certain letters didn't exist in the ancient alphabet. They're not in or arranged exactly alphabetically within each section, within each letter. Let me just quickly. Anna. Yep, here we go. Straight away see the Latin, and I know this is who we're talking about. Anna, Mater Deorum Hibernensium. In other words, the mother of the gods of the Irish. It was well she nursed Deos, i.e. the gods. De cujus nomine dicitur Anna, i.e. plenty, and the Dáchic Ananya, the two paps of Anna, west of Lunar nominantur, ut fabula verunt. Oh, it's in Latin. God, if only I knew Latin. Vel Anna quod est annio vel anniud Grece, which is, I presume, Greece, quad interpretur dapes. Oh, there is an English paragraph underneath. Woohoo! Yay! Saved by the translation. Anna, or as she is most usually called, Danann, was the mother of the three chieftains of the Tuatha Dé Danann, Brian, Jochar, and Jocharvu, who were accounted gods for their feats of necromancy. The two paps in the district of Luchar Jerry in the county of Kerry are two mountains still so called in the barony of Magonahy. As to Anna, God is said to be the well topper, Topur, which is old Irish name in modern Irish tubber, of the Anya, A for the N-E. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. That looks a hell of a lot like it might be Anya, A for the I-N-E, but that's, I presume, a different deity. As to Anna, God is said to be the well topper of the Anya in Z1052 and Z.1041 as a gloss in the epistles at Colossians, I presume, 3:5. And we're back to Latin again. Avaritiam quae est simulacrorum. That looks like simulacrum, which I presume is something to do with similarities. Servitus. For the connection between words signifying God and wealth, cf. Lat. Deus, divus, and dives, ops, bona dea, and opus. Oh my God, that is almost impossible to read. So you can see that basically what Cormac says about her is short and sweet, but she nursed the gods, and the two paps of Anna, which are still called that to this day. Imagine this is composed in the 9th century. If only I knew Latin, wouldn't that be grand, Ted? Is there anything to be said for another mass? Barbara Murphy has joined us. Hello, Barbara. Welcome. Amy Wallace Dolan says, yes, Dougal. Small, far away. Yes. The greatest of these would seem to have been Nuada, called, as in the greatest of Danu's children. Nuada, called Arrogant Love, or he of the silver hand. He was at once the Gaelic Zeus, or Jupiter, and their war god. For among primitive nations, to whom success in war is all important, the god of battles is the supreme god. Among the Gauls, Camulus, whose name meant heaven, was identified by the Romans with Mars, and other such instances come readily to the mind. He was possessed of an invincible sword, one of the 4 chief treasures of the Tuatha Dé Danann, over whom he was twice king. And there is little doubt that he was one of the most important gods of both the Gaels and the Britons, for his name is spread over the whole of the British Isles, which we may surmise the Celts conquered under his auspices. We may picture him as a more savage Mars, delighting in battle and slaughter, and worshipped, like his Gaulish affinities, Tutates and Hesus, of whom the Latin poet Lucan tells us, with human sacrifices, shared in by his female consorts, who, we may imagine, were not more merciful than himself. I just think the foregoing, what I've just read there by Squire, he's reading a little bit too much into it, actually. I think if you're to read the very, shall we say, limited, small fragments that there are about Nuadu, you might not just get quite the picture of a bloodthirsty war god, whom we may imagine were not more merciful than himself, or than that the Gaulish Tyrannus, whose cult was, quote, no gentler than that of the Scythian Diana, unquote, and who completes Lucan's triad as a fit companion to the pitiless Chitates and the horrible Hesus. Especially so when you consider that when Nuadu returned to the throne, and we saw that in Cot Moitura, it was really Lu who marshalled the forces of the Tuatha Danann for the Second Battle of Moitura. Nuadu played very little role in that, so to paint him as some sort of bloodthirsty war god, I think, is going just a little bit too far. Of these warlike goddesses, there were five: Fei, Fea, the hateful; Nemon, the venomous; Bao, or Badb, Bob, if you prefer, or Bov. Bao is how I've heard it pronounced in modern times. The fury; Macha, a personification of battle; and over all of them, the Morrigu, the great queen. Her name also being rendered Mor Rion, or Riagon, which basically means more being large or great or big, and Riagon or Rion being a feminine sovereign. Happy birthday, Barbara Murphy! Did I miss something? Happy birthday to you, squashed tomatoes in stew. You look like no, that's the version that they used to sing to me when I was 6. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear Barbara, happy birthday to you. Here's to many more orbits of the sun, Barbara. Another March hare like myself, and same surname too, I'll tell you. This supreme war goddess of the Gaels, who resembles a fiercer Here or Hera, perhaps symbolized the moon, deemed by early races to have preceded the sun and worshipped with magical and cruel rites. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because we also have Bowen in the Boyne Valley, and I've drawn the comparisons that make her, I think, at least in part, a lunar deity. She is represented as going fully armed and carrying 2 spears in her hand. As with Ares and Poseidon in the Iliad, her battle cry was as loud as that of 10,000 men. Wherever there was war, either among gods or men, she, the great queen, was present, either in her own shape or in her favourite disguise, that of a hoodie or a carrion crow. And we would call that today the hooded crow or the grey crow. An old poem shows her inciting a warrior. Over his head is shrieking a lean hag, Lean, a lean hag, quickly hopping over the points of the weapons and shields. She is the grey-haired Morrigu. Sounds a bit like the Cailleach. Hopping from place to place. Anyway, happy birthday, Barbara. Hope you're having a great day. With her, Fei and Nemon, Bao and Macha also hovered over the fighters, inspiring them with the madness of battle. All of these were sometimes called by the name of Bao, B-A-D-B. Let me just check my page count here in terms of where we're going with this. Yeah, okay. Yeah. An account of the Battle of Clontarf, fought by Brian Boru in 1014, that's 1014 AD, or 4,000 years later than Newgrange, against the Norsemen, gives a gruesome picture of what the Gaels believed to happen in the spiritual world when battle lowered and men's blood was aflame. Quote, there arose a wild, impetuous, precipitate, mad, inexorable, furious, dark, lacerating, merciless, combative, contentious bow, which was shrieking and fluttering over their heads. I'm not quite sure there's enough adjectives there. Maybe we could pick a few more. And there also arose the satyrs and sprites, and the maniacs of the valleys, and the witches and goblins and owls, and destroying demons of the air and firmament, and the demoniac phantom host, and they were inciting and sustaining valor and battle with them, unquote. I'd love to see whose translation that is, by the way, because it looks rather fanciful, I'll be honest with you. I doubt. I'd say that's a, shall we say, Slightly embellished translation. When the fight was over, they revelled among the bodies of the slain. The heads cut off as barbaric trophies were called Macha's acorn crop. Not very pleasant. These grim creations of the savage mind had immense vitality. While Nuada, the supreme war god, vanished early out of the pantheon, killed by the Fomors in the great battle fought between them and the gods. He's just spoiled the story of the Second Battle of Moytura, but we've done it before on several episodes, so you probably know it already. Bow and the Morrigu lived on as late as any of the Gaelic deities. Indeed, they may be said to still survive in the superstitious dislike and suspicion shown in all Celtic-speaking countries for their avatar, the hoodie crow. After Nuada, the greatest of the gods was the Dagda. I would have said he was supreme. Whose name seems to have meant the good god. The old Irish tract, and there's a translation in Rees that says from Cor Anvan that it translates as fire of God, which is interesting because Dagda very much appears to have been a solar deity. The old Irish tract called The Choice of Names tells us that he was a god of the earth. He just is straight away arguing my point that he was a sun god. He had a cauldron called the Undry, in which everyone found food in proportion to his merits, and from which none went away unsatisfied. He also had a living harp. As he played upon it, the seasons came in their order, spring following winter, and summer succeeding spring, autumn coming after summer, and in its turn giving place to winter. He is represented as of venerable aspect and of simple mind and tastes, very fond of porridge, and a valiant consumer of it. In an ancient tale, we have a description of his dress. He wore a brown, I believe this is the description also from Cot Moytura, the Second Battle of Moytura. He wore a brown, low-necked tunic, which only reached down to his hips, and over this a hooded cape which barely covered his shoulders. On his feet and legs were horsehide boots, the hairy side outwards. He carried, or rather drew after him on a wheel, an 8-pronged war club. The spokes of the year, folks, the Celtic year. If you think of the wheel of the year as it is known in modern paganism, it's based on the 2 solstices, the 2 equinoxes, divided by the cross-quarter days. An 8-pronged war club, so huge that 8 men would have been needed to carry it. And the wheel, as he towed the whole weapon along, made a track like a territorial boundary. That's from Cot Moytura. Ancient and grey-headed as he was, and sturdy porridge eater. By the way, the fact that the tunic only reached down to his hips caused him to be mocked in the Battle of Moytura because he hadn't got anything on below the waist. There you go. Ancient and grey-headed as he was, and sturdy porridge eater, it will be seen from this that he was a formidable fighter. He did great deeds in the battle between the gods and the Fomors, and on one occasion is even said to have captured single-handed a 100-legged and 4-headed monster called Mata, dragged him to the Stone of Ben near the Boyne and killed him there. Lech Ben, of course, something that I've written about in particular quite comprehensively in my Mythical Ireland book, and something you'll have heard me talking about quite often on the live streams, the great monster of the Boyne that was killed and dismembered and thrown into the river. Well, sometimes it is Dagda who's credited with killing the Mata. Sometimes it is the men of Erin, sometimes the men of Ulster. As a historic harpist, I'm concerned about his wardrobe choices. Yes, especially if he was going to play the harp with his legs up and Don't even go there. Let's not imagine that scene. He had a rather fat belly too, because wasn't there a hole that was dug and he was getting into the hole, and he went up to his waist because his belly was too big for him to squash down into the hole. It seems that sometimes Dagda was a little bit caricatured, one might even say, idea for a future video: top 10 Irish monsters and their powers. Of course, yeah, sure. We have the Crum Croak, which was supposed to have been a giant serpent as well. What was Cora? Isn't it the one that Patrick was supposed to have? Loch Cora thrown into the lake. And yes, there are probably several others that we could do some research on. That would certainly definitely be an interesting article / video / live stream. The Dagda's wife was called Boann, and here he's wrong, because Boann was married to Alkmaar, and Dagda actually, as it were, cuckolded Alkmaar in the tales. I'm not sure that it says that Boann was Dagda's wife anywhere, but the fact that I'm not sure, I'm not going to rule it out. She was connected in legend with the River Boyne, to which she gave its name, and indeed its very existence. And the footnote says the story is told in the Book of Leinster. And of course, we have told that story because we did an episode early on in the live streams in 2020 about Boann, and the stories about her are contained in the prose and the metrical, or the rhyming Dinchanicus. But if you want what I believe to be the only book ever written solely about the goddess Boann, that would be the Mythical Ireland monograph number 2, which features Boann, the goddess of the River Boyne and the Milky Way. And although it is not a massive book, it has quite a comprehensive bibliography and list of sources for anybody interested in pursuing that. Copies of that, of course, are available on the Mythical Ireland website, and it's not expensive. I think it's €13 or €13.50 or something like that. It is not an expensive book, but if you are interested in the goddess Boann and you want to learn more, I will share the link with you now. I'll send you a signed copy if you buy it through the Mythical Ireland website. Formerly, there was only a well shaded by 9 magic hazel trees. These trees bore crimson nuts. Sorry, I'm taking another note. Formerly, there was only a well shaded by 9 magic hazel trees. These trees bore crimson nuts, as in the Cno, the hazelnuts, and it was the property of the nuts that whoever ate of them immediately became possessed of the knowledge of everything that was in the world. The story is, in fact, a Gaelic version of the Hebrew myth of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. One class of creatures alone had this privilege: divine salmon, who lived in the well and swallowed the nuts as they dropped from the trees into the water, and thus knew all things, and appear in legend as the salmons of knowledge. All others, even the highest gods, were forbidden to approach the place. Only Boann is the better rendering of her old name, Bofinn. Only Boann, with the proverbial woman's curiosity, dared to disobey this fixed law. She came towards the sacred well, but as she did so, its waters rose up at her and drove her away before them in a mighty rushing flood. She escaped, but the waters never returned. They made the Boyne, and as for the all-knowing inhabitants of the well, they wandered disconsolately through the depths of the river, looking in vain for their lost nuts. Sorry, I'm making more notes here. One of these salmon was afterwards eaten by the famous Finn MacCool, upon whom all its omniscience descended. And if you want to read the story of Finn and the salmon of knowledge, that is Mythical Ireland monograph number 1. I am planning to write a series of monographs. I haven't had the time to write more. I am planning to keep writing these. But the first in the series was the one about Finn and the Salmon of Knowledge. Also available from the Mythical Ireland website. And that one is cheaper again. I think it's $10.50. Yes, indeed it is. This way of accounting for the existence of a river is a favourite one in Irish legend. It is told also of the Shannon, which burst, like the Boyne, from an inviolable well to pursue another presumptuous nymph called Sinan, a granddaughter of the sea god Lear. The Dagda had several children, the most important of whom are Bridget, Angus, Midger, Ogma, and Bove the Red. Now, this is curious straight away because this would make Midger and Angus brothers, when in fact in Tuchmark Etain, Midger is Angus's foster father. Of these, Bridget will be already familiar to English readers who know nothing of Celtic myth. Originally, she was a goddess of fire and the hearth, as well as of poetry, which the Gaels deemed an immaterial, supersensual form of flame. But the early Christianizers of Ireland adopted the pagan goddess into their role of saintship and thus canonized. She obtained immense popularity as Saint Bridget or Bride. But the fascinating thing is, in the aforementioned Sanus Cormac or Cormac's Glossary from the 9th century, the only mention of Bridget in there, even though Cormac, remember Cormac MacQuillenon was the king, but he was also the Bishop of Cashel, a churchman. Writing about Bridget does not mention any Christian saint, but only the pre-Christian, or what we might call pagan Bridget. Fascinating stuff. Michael Pike is having a laugh at the idea that the fish were chasing their missing nuts. Yes. Let's not go there. Happy belated birthday, Caitlin. Oh, yes, Caitlin Moon had a birthday recently as well, as did Adrian O'Beglin, as did... You see, this is the problem. Lexi, was it your birthday in March? It was, wasn't it? Well, I'm probably repeating myself now. Mine was the 12th, says Caitlin. There are a lot of March hairs in this group, I'll tell you. Dr. whatever his real name is, Jones... calling Dr. Jones, likes being read to. Great read. Yes. Are we talking about the same thing? Or yes, apparently we are. Good. Angus was called Mac Og, which means the son of the young, or perhaps the young god. This most charming of the creations of the Celtic mythology is represented as a Gaelic Eros, an eternally youthful exponent of love and beauty. Like his father, he had a harp, but it was of gold, not oak, as the Dagda's was, and so sweet was its music that no one could hear and not follow it. A little bit like a Pied Piper, maybe. The Mythical Ireland March Hare Army is expanding. Indeed it is. Marcus says, so salmons basically ate my family because my family are all nuts. His kisses became birds which hovered invisibly over the young men and maidens of Erin, whispering thoughts of love into their ears. Isn't that lovely, huh? Bit of a Valentine, you know. He is chiefly connected with the banks of the Boyne, where he had a brew or fairy palace, and many stories are told of his exploits and adventures. And of course, that is Sheed Machanog, which was formerly called Sheed and Broga, which is nowadays known as Newgrange. Midger, I'm told that in Middle Irish, if the D falls between two vowels, it's pronounced like a TH, mither. But I always say Midger, and I'm probably butchering it. And if there were any Middle Age bards alive, like still alive after 10 centuries, they'd probably be doing what my kids do when I tell a dad joke, slapping their foreheads, going, "That's not how you say it, you gumbean." Midger, also the hero of legends, would seem to have been a god of the underworld, a Gaelic Pluto. As such, he was connected with the Isle of Folga, a name for what was otherwise and still is called the Isle of Man, where he had a stronghold in which he kept 3 wonderful cows and a magic cauldron, which is fascinating because we did previously mention that Midger is connected with an underground cave in the hill of Arda in Briley, which is where his she was located in Tuckmark Etain, which is in the modern county of Longford. Sorry, I'm just taking a note here. So, a bit like his father, he had a magic cauldron, but he also had 3 wonderful cows. He was also the owner of the, quote, 3 cranes of denial and churlishness, unquote, which might be described flippantly as personified gentle hints. They stood beside his door, and when anyone approached to ask for hospitality, the first one said, "Do not come, do not come," and the second added, "Get away, get away," while the third chimed in with, "Go past the house, go past the house." These 3 birds were, however, stolen from Midger by Aherne, an avaricious poet, to whom they would seem to have been more appropriate than to their owner, who does not otherwise appear as a churlish and illiberal deity. I think we're looking at sort of closing out for the evening because we've been on for an hour and a half. Half of that has been spent reading, but we've plenty more to come. And I don't want to exhaust all you folks. And I know this is good stuff, and we're enjoying ourselves. Cranes. No, cranes as in the birds with the long necks. Caitlin Moon has something to say. Caitlin is an expert. The Middle Irish D between the 2 consonants is considered to be mutated. As far as I know, you're right. Kim McCone probably talks about it in a Maynooth publication. Yeah, something that I downloaded. I'm not sure if it was shared on the Mythical Ireland community a couple of years ago, but somebody shared a resource, which was like a Word document or a PDF or something. And it was multiple pages, like 6 or 8 pages, maybe 10 pages. And it was about pronouncing Middle Irish. And it was in there that I read that the D, is that the technical terminology, Caitlin, to be mutated? Midder. MITH was how I think I remember it being suggested was the pronunciation. But anyway, more reading to be done. What are you reading? Says Celtic Warrior. I'm reading Celtic Warrior. Hello. I did mention it at the beginning, but I will mention it again. We are reading from Charles Squire. This book it's reprinted as Mythology of the Celtic People. It was originally published in 1912 as Celtic Myth and Legend, Poetry and Romance by the Gresham Publishing Company. And this is a modern facsimile reprint of same. Charles Squire is the author, or was the author, no longer with us, unless he's very, very, very old, like 2 centuries old or a century and a half. I'm not sure if there are any more announcements. Just don't forget to have a listen to Eternal Father Strong to Save, and you see if you agree with me that it's a beautiful rendition by, I'm not sure which Welsh male voice choir, but a beautiful piece of music. I'm getting tired now. Not tired with you folks. I mean, you're much more likely to be tired of me at this stage. Anyway, go over to patreon.com/Mythical Ireland, where you get all the juicy stuff, including page by page, my new book, which I'm writing at the moment. I am trying to share that more regularly, including the draft of the 5,000 word article about the Metonic cycle, which will appear in time on the Mythical Ireland website. And I am sharing one by one the videos to accompany that. So get over to Patreon and sign up if you don't mind, and if you'd like to hear more. Michael Pike will be in Ireland in May, planning to spend all my time in the Boyne Valley, and I'm looking forward to meeting you, Michael. Hopefully we will have a great time. I look forward to Mondays. Yeah, because Monday's that kind of day where it's kind of, for a lot of people like myself, the start of the working week. It's nice, isn't it, just to gather among friends on a Monday evening and just, yes, delve into the Irish history and mythology and prehistory and archaeology and all that, but also just to be among friends. Have a great weekend, and a great way to say that exact thing, Desiree, through Live Irish Myths, is to say, have a great week, everybody. Hope it is a good one for you. And we'll see you, if not between now and then, because I do occasionally do impromptu live streams. And I'm more likely to be, I hope, getting out and about now with the longer evenings, and hopefully some improvement in the weather. Getting out with the camera and getting out with the phone and doing some live streams. Barb Jordan, thank you for joining us. It is the perfect start to the week, says Jazeera. I'm glad you agree. Amy Wallace Dolan says, can we do a reenactment of your man with the hairy boots and the hip-length tunic? We can, but I'm not volunteering. I'm too tall and thin for that. You know, Dagda sounds like he's a slightly smaller, more rotund individual, if you don't mind me suggesting. Mickey Slán Mocharja, farewell until next week, says Auntie Joe. Mariana Dunn is saying thanks, and to the mighty Tua as well. Goramila Mahagot Ihawa Akarja, August Tufain, Adrian, until next time. Over on Patreon. Yes, get straight over there for all the juicy stuff. Chicken. Chicken. Michael Pike is actually reminding me of one more joke. Did I tell that one last week? I think I might have. Why did the chicken cross the road? To get to the idiot's house. Knock, knock. Who's there? The chicken. Chungus Khan, who I don't think I said hello to earlier, has been in the house. God Almighty give done on scale Slán go full Chungus. I've got to change my alarm so I won't be late. You all made my day. Brilliant stuff, Barbara. Happy birthday to you. And I hope you got a big slab of cake and something else to wash it down. If that's your thing, I got, for my birthday, a bottle of Tullamore Dew. Yes, it was cracked open over the weekend. Yes. And I may have a dram tonight just to help me sleep. Maybe, maybe not. More likely. Heather Marie Leaning. Thank you, Heather Marie. Valerie Gallagher. Slán. We didn't used to do this for a long time. Usually I just said goodbye and hung up. Now I find myself saying goodbye individually to people. Slán Lat. Ah, yes, indeed, Marcus. And to Rex. First of the commenters tonight. There you go. Have one for me. Does that mean I can have two? No. Hang on. When you're telling your friends, I'm going out to the pub tonight, I'm just going out for the one. Or maybe I'll have two. Or maybe I'll have a few. And next week we'll do the whole, what film is this? Try, what's glasses? Can't even remember it. 3 glasses, please. Yes, super meetup as usual. It just goes too quickly. Thank you, Anthony, and all the mighty to us, says Tom King. Take care, my friends. Stay safe out there. Forge of the smooth road says good night. Yes, Tom. We'll keep our little secret for a while longer about last week, but before too long, hopefully. Super Enter, good night to you also. Yummy, says Adina, in relation to, I presume, the Tullamore Dew. Now that's how you count stories of houses. Andy McCurl. I'm just going out for the one, maybe the two. I might even have a few. And Marcus has got it straight away. Inglorious Bastards. It's Bastards, isn't it? And even Inglorious is spelled differently. That's because Quentin just does his own thing. Thank you, Lexi. Good night with the smiles. Tarini Pendleton, Goramahagot, Tufain. I'm going to head off. Not that I have an appointment with a glass of whiskey or anything, but you know, if that happens, it happens. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you all next week. And I hope that you're all in good form and that you have a great week. We'll see you all next week for Live Irish Myths number 219. My goodness, where does the time go? In the meantime, 7-3, as we say in ham radio, Ikawa, Colusov, Slán go fóil, and most importantly, Tóg go bugé. Take it easy.